Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to a new refreshed QuickBooks Labs. As you can see, we've got a nice new green lick of paint all over ourselves. Gone are the blues, in with the green, and hopefully you'll see it's a little bit more fresh going forward. So QuickBooks Labs, a fortnightly podcast designed to be the place to learn all about the world of QuickBooks and other accounting software. Every 2 weeks, we hang around these microphones to talk about all the latest news, tips, tricks for QuickBooks Online. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Patrick, a chartered accountant and owner of an accounting firm called Boffix, and a QuickBooks Certified trainer with a nice little badge. I can't figure that out. There it is. And also that QuickBooks chap on YouTube. Join me, as always, is my co-host, the one and only Ash. How's it going, Ash?
Fantastic, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, it's me, Ash Peterson, bookkeeper / accountant / app developer, founder of NetTracker, the app for your fixed assets, connects with QuickBooks Online and Xero. Back over to you, Aaron.
Awesome. So normally at this point I say how we got a cracker installed, and definitely stay around. We've definitely got some great news for you. But being honest with you, today we've got some news that's going to be interesting and relevant, but we definitely don't have as much as we normally have. And that's to be expected, isn't it? Let's be honest, we had QuickBooks Connect only a couple of weeks ago, and we were given all the information then. So it's a little bit lighter on the world of QuickBooks, but we still have a good show in store for you. So first of all, we are live to the world to our regular time of 4:30 p.m. UK. And that's 10:30 US Central Time every other Tuesday. So if you're listening to this back at a later date, then why not think about joining us live? That way we can get involved with the show, and then you can ask questions as we go along. So just like we've got Leanne. Hi, Leanne. How's it going? And Joanne as well. Great session this morning on Ask the Expert. Was a great little one there. If you haven't seen it, then do make sure you go watch his show this morning. So you can join people like them and ask any questions and furthermore later in the show. So also just to let you know, we are live to the nation on podcast services around the globe. So feel free to subscribe on a podcasting service of your choice. Ash, what's the agenda for today's show?
So on today, you've got a little bit of news for us, Aaron. So just a tiny bit of news, and then you'll come over to me, and I'll do a little bit of diving around in the QuickBooks Online Advanced Payroll. So I've got a few tips to that I can help with that. I've been looking into it quite a bit recently. We'll be looking at using the rostering and kiosks and setting up different things within there. A little bit on bank holidays as well. So anyone that's new to QuickBooks Online Advanced Payroll, that will help. We've got a webinar a full webinar coming up actually with Intuit on Friday. So we'll take a look at that, and then anyone else that logs in and is joining us today, you can throw a question at myself and Aaron, and if we know the answer, or even if we don't, we shall try our very best to help you with that answer.
Got ways and means. And now's the right time to be talking about payroll, isn't it? With us coming up to that payroll year end and everything else. So if you are considering looking at QuickBooks Payroll Solution, now is the time. Okay, then. So when it comes to the news, we've got a couple of changes within QuickBooks itself. So we're going to just have a quick look at some very minor changes, but possibly something that could kind of give us some indication of what's going to happen in the future. So more on that in a moment. We've got more news on how the QuickBooks Bank is going to be operated and how that works. One of those new features they announced at QuickBooks Connect. One of the ones I'm actually really, really excited about. I think it's going to be a great addition to the QuickBooks product lineup. We've got a new term to understand as well called premium apps. So we'll try and figure out what premium apps means and how that actually can affect us going forward. And there's a few changes in the USA product as well that I thought I'd bring in and talk about. So first of all, let's quickly go and see our changes that we've had in product itself. So I'm just quickly going to share screen. Okay, so really, really simple change here, but it could be something that kind of brings in some extra functionality to us later and also makes our life so much more easy and more useful when we're doing it. But if you've ever used your upload receipt functionality, so if you ever scanned in a receipt and put it into QuickBooks, you'll notice this view is very different to what it was before. Basically, we're getting a much more area here where we can start looking into things, and it seems to be a lot more or it seems to me like we're seeing it very much in terms of what the rest of the architecture of QuickBooks is. If you remember when they first brought in this feature, it was very much a kind of, there was a couple of boxes here and it was very much a much smaller area on the right hand side. Now we seem to have kind of almost reminiscent of what the bank area looks like if we're going to add a transaction. It's kind of in that more of a aesthetic there, and kind of things like the names and stuff, it now finally says category back again and things like that. So very minor change, but I think it's something that's definitely a good thing. And I think it's something that also means that they're going to start doubling down on this area as well, which is a good thing, because I really like this feature. I think it's a great way of getting data into QuickBooks, and I think the idea that we can get it in there is really useful. One thing I'd wish they'd change though is just this terminology up here, bill and receipt. We all know it as expense and bill, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that being changed. And then the other thing that I know people are screaming out for is the ability to split this transaction down a little bit further. What do you think to that one, Ash? That's a minor change, isn't it? But
it's minor, but I'm being honest, it looks a lot better on the screen. So as you take a look at it, but I couldn't agree more. Yeah, the receipt thing, you know, why it just didn't go straight to expense. I know it's a receipt that's in your pocket. We all know what that is, but consistency would be a little bit more helpful there. And then I think what's also, what people at some, it's not that common, the credit note, the supplier credit note, being able to scan that, because at the moment that's going to, still a manual job, isn't it? But yeah, just look a lot better.
No, I think that's definitely a good shout, that one. I think the receipt and bill thing just frustrates me because it's kind of undoing our hard work. We always go when we're doing our training, isn't it? I feel like we spend a good quarter of that training explaining the difference between a bill and an expense, and then they go along and chuck the word receipt in there just for good measure. So.
Yeah, so now when you come to do the receipt scan, you say, "And by the way, receipt means expense." just make sure.
Emphasize that bit.
I think I just got slightly sidetracked by Annie's Burger Shack and the amount of money you spent at Annie's Burger Shack.
I promise you it wasn't just for me. That was a team outing, that one.
Okay.
But it is, if you're ever in Derby, that is the place to go for your burgers. I don't know if this was new or not, but now you can make it billable. And I couldn't remember if it was on the old screen or not, but it might have been there. I just might have missed it. But you can now make expenses and items billable as well. Or you could before, and it was there. So again, minor change there, but I think definitely in the right direction and definitely something that's going to make things useful. And then one small other change that I noticed as well, if I jump into the QuickBooks accountant section. So if you're not an accountant, then this bit won't mean anything to you whatsoever. But now if I was to jump into my QB case study where we just were, the eagle-eyed of you will notice there's only 2 tabs at the top here. We're missing that second tab. So again, sign of things to come, I assume. I don't know what their future or what's going on with this area going forward. I don't know if there's looking to enhance this area and bring some more bits to it. Maybe this is where the whole QuickBooks tax and all that lot that we were talking about kind of in the past couple of episodes and how that's going to integrate with it. But no, we've lost the tab in here, which used to be basically a nice little breakdown of what was the pages and stuff and everything else. But as they say here, it is the same data that's in your overview section. So, you can go into each individual client and find it from there. I don't really see it as a big issue or a big problem, but it was nice that data was being brought into this area without you having to click into the individual client. So maybe that's a thing of a look at things to come, because I imagine it's to speed up the process and everything else if you're not having to call that data all the time and everything else. So yeah, an interesting one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I know, because you say notes, shared documents, and then bookkeeping. Then it was the third tab with your your bank balances and your balance sheet balance, reconciliation. On the main page, Aaron, because I couldn't, on your major accountant page, where the clients are listed, because a number of transactions don't come through anymore, do they?
Oh, sorry, I'm on the bookkeeping tab. There we are, overview tab.
So the banking, so on the over, so it still does come through.
Yeah, that is true, isn't it? Yeah, but it doesn't come through as you can't drill deeper into it, can you? Which you can, but I imagine. I mean, they'll have the statistics and everything, won't they? I imagine no one was using that section, so that's probably why it's gone. But it was just one of those odd changes, wasn't it? That kind of didn't see coming. And small kind of update for that is now to get into your client. If you ever went from there, your QB button's up here, and it's not in that section anymore. Cool. All right, so there was a small change. If you do notice any other changes, though, do let us know, because we're always interested to keep an eye on changes and let people know going forward. The other news, though, that we had was we had a bit more information on how this QuickBooks account is going to use. So just a bit of a background as to what it is if you didn't catch last week's episode. But basically, QuickBooks are going to be providing their own bank account as sorts. And the idea here is it's about trying to make it so that you can have an all-in-one solution. So the way they've kind of pitched it is the idea that it's not just going to be that you attach your bank account to QuickBooks, but it should enhance some functionality, should unlock some functionality, and should be able to give you opportunities to be able to kind of utilize that deep integration. With the fact that it's a QuickBooks product, you kind of expect that. And this sort of expected extra functionality is the idea that as an accountant, we could make payments on behalf of clients, and there could be an expense procedure, and all them sort of things is what we expect to come through, and is what has been talked about going forward as well. But it was just interesting the way that they've kind of given out some more information. So first of all, it will be a fully digital bank. So if you think along the lines of Revolut, Starling, those sort of challenger banks, that's the sort of connection they're looking to build and put in. And we've learned that it's by a company called Modular that's going to have all this, or Modular, something like that, Modulr. And one of the things that I found when I was kind of looking into it and trying to do some research on it is this is basically the same platform that Revolut has been using to kind of enhance their functionality. So that could only mean then that from kind of speculation point of view, that we should kind of see that what Revolut's built should be very similar to what QuickBooks is aiming for, and there should be that element there. So that could kind of give you some indication of what to expect when this functionality starts rolling out. The beta's up and running, but we've heard nothing on if people have been accepted in the beta yet or not. Both me and Ash have both signed up, haven't we, Ash, in terms of get ourselves ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a great question has come through from Johan when we're talking about that bank. Do you think the QBO bank will see lending based on QBO data? And that's a very good question, because I would probably say that might be a good shout, really. I think that could be the case. If Intuit gathering all this data based upon their customers, and they've got a particular customer, and they can see what their revenue is, and they're using the QBO bank, and they want that, they'd like some additional funding. Well, they've got all that information there, haven't they? They can see what their sales are, what their cash flow is like. It gives them all the insights, so they're in the background to say, you want £20,000, whatever, dollars, whatever it might be. Well, looking at your records, I don't know whether we're really going to risk that, or or it could be quite the opposite.
Yeah, definitely. And well, just some insight into that one. So Modular themselves, I don't know if you're supposed to call it Modular, Modulr, is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, and offers direct access to faster payments and backs and hold settled funds within Bank of England. So the way they're kind of wording it is, it does seem like it's going to be something that will build onto that. And it kind of gets me thinking down the line. I don't know if these are connected, but I remember having a conversation or a talk with QuickBooks a couple of years back now about their real focus on that they want to bring in factoring and they want to have that built direct into the product. So I wonder if this is kind of the hallmarks of that as well. So not only could it improve the ability for lenders and everything else to have visibility and understand what's going on and have that kind of opportunity there, but also brings in the opportunity for more quicker finance options and having that ability to, you know, borrow against maybe one particular invoice that's outstanding, that sort of idea, and maybe change the way that factoring is, because the way factoring is at the moment is most of the time it's all or nothing, isn't it? You have to give up all of your income and all of your debtors to be able to make it worthwhile on the factoror. So, you know, I know that they were looking into the possibility of trying to turn that on the head a little bit and maybe have it so you can kind of have it on a more when you need it approach, that you can kind of borrow money sort of idea. So it kind of all seems to be putting all the bits into place, doesn't it? That's the sort of thing that might be going forward.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and I'm really, you know, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on the kind of solution itself. I personally feel like this is going to be a great maybe secondary bank that you can kind of use for most clients, that whole expenses bank as we talked about before, and using it for that sort of functionality I think will be really, really good. Yeah, so I think that could be something that would be entertaining to look at. But yeah, watch this space on this one. I think that's going to be a huge little opportunity to go forward in terms of how it's going to be done and everything else. And if it is very much similar to how Revolut works, and it's, you know, it's a very simple solution that could be really useful. Okay, so the other bits of news that we've got, really straightforward, and just being awareness really, and maybe opportunity to think about what could be coming down the line. They've introduced in the US in the advanced QuickBooks section. So advanced being one of their other offerings over there. So we don't have it in the UK just yet, but it is designed for a more enterprise level business. It's designed to be for your bigger businesses, but they've brought in a new kind of term, if you like, called premium apps. And the idea of premium apps, and from what we can tell from the research, is that instead of it just being that kind of app integration we've got now, where it's very much the app developer would develop something just like Ash has, and it'll be able to explain it in much more detail. But instead of just having that idea where we've got this whole app being developed and then there's a connection to QuickBooks, definitely in this case and what we've seen, in certain circumstances, it's QuickBooks reaching out to the provider and creating the connection on their behalf. So as an example of one of these premium apps that have been discussed, DocuSign. So DocuSign, a really popular QuickBooks, a really popular app outside of QuickBooks, should I say. So the idea of DocuSign is you get that opportunity to send forms over. You can get them e-signed really easily. And they've been really good at connecting certain products to it. So Microsoft Teams, HubSpot, those sort of things, they've already got some form of integration. And the idea is making that e-signature really, really robust and having something that you can rely on and make sure it can send, and you can auto reminders, all that sort of stuff is what they kind of tout as their main benefits for using their platform. But it was actually Intuit that, from what we've seen from this article, is Intuit's actually gone and reached out to DocuSign to create the connection, not the other way around. And that's normally the case. It's normally, again, someone's made an app and then they want to connect it to QuickBooks. This is Intuit reaching out to make that connection. And that kind of opens up quite a few different scenarios there, doesn't it, Ash? It's kind of a whole different way of looking at it, a whole different way of changing the kind of aspect of what the App Store could be going forward and how that could amend. And this whole premium app idea kind of makes a tier system and everything else. What do you think to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, I can understand that DocuSign point of view, because I'm imagining that, you know, if you're you're using the advanced product, and in the, you know, US and Canada, and they're using the tax, you know, section, in the US, and then they've got DocuSign maybe embedded within their tax area, which means they could probably ping that tax return off to their client through Intuit, asking their client to sign via DocuSign, and it coming back into the product. I would imagine that might be how that might work.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's pretty good. Because is that the similar? Which is it? Spotlight reporting, is that much of that sort of their premium app that's already now been built in when you go into the advanced, isn't there? You go, you want a next level up type of report. It's sort of, you're still in QuickBooks, but you're sort of leaving it at the same time because the connection is tighter.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's also to do with the work, because there's that workflow section in QuickBooks as well, isn't there? There's that whole we kind of explored it a little bit, didn't we, on a previous episode where we talked about how there was that if QuickBooks did this, then it could do that, and there's that whole if statement type of scenario, and that's I know they're really kind of trying to push that as kind of a main feature advance. It's like, this is where you get your benefits from, is because you get to use that advanced functionality. So if they kind of integrated DocuSign in with that could open up a lot of being sending off things like approvals and stuff, because that's where I can kind of see that would be quite beneficial to them.
Yeah.
Because their approval process compared to, say, the likes of Xero has always been lacking, hasn't it? So maybe it's kind of a workaround, if you like, to that. But they already have a signing-esque technology already, don't they? Because that's what we use for quotes and stuff, isn't it, on the phone? But I suppose it's about basically taking market leader basically in Sign and kind of using there. So yeah, it could be an interesting idea. And I wonder, how many more, I mean, we can only speculate, but how many other kind of conversations they're having with other big providers and seeing what connections they could make from there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Not us yet. But yeah, I say, yeah, Johan's put in again, another good comment. It could be later down the line. That's a great one. Being able to use DocuSign to get clients to authorize the VAT return.
Yeah,
that'd be a great one. Yeah, because at the moment it's pretty much off the back of an email quite often, isn't it? Or or whether or whether you as the accountant are just going to just do it if you've got the authority anyway.
And I think it's gone now, but we used to have DocuSign as a discounted partner on the Pro Advisor portal. You know how you got those extra bits as an accountant and everything else? One of those levels was DocuSign. I can't remember the details or what it was, but there was at one point an opportunity to get it there. So maybe that's kind of part and parcel of that partnership going forward, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, it could be.
So that's brilliant. Okay, so with that then as well, so this whole new premium app experience, which the other ones that have been announced was Bill.com, Salesforce, and HubSpot. So having more integrations with there, and the ones they've already got kind of because they own them basically is QuickBooks Time, which was T-Sheets, and QuickBooks Payroll, which obviously makes sense. But I suppose if you think about it in the kind of functionality that what QuickBooks Time and QuickBooks Payroll have in terms of the deep integrations that you can get, that kind of gives you some indication of how much integration you can have, because that's the one, not downside, but that's the one thing to always bear in mind, isn't it, of the apps at the moment on the app stores. There's only so far they can kind of integrate with the system. So maybe this whole new premium app just gives them that extra element of being able to integrate their product even more. So yeah, interesting to go forward. And then there's one more bit that I wanted to talk about, or just to bring into people's news article, and just so people are aware of changes. So again, this is USA first, but normally we find that if a big major change happens in the USA, then we do see the idea that that will come over to QuickBooks UK at some point, and that's normally how it kind of works out. I like to think the USA are kind of beta testing certain functionality for us, and then when it's ready.
Let them make the mistakes, and then we'll have it. We'll have the finished product.
Exactly right. So the features that have come in, and to be fair, they're very much in line with what Xero can do, and kind of getting that kind of idea. But we've got the ability of Google Sheets compatibility coming forward. So I don't know about you, but Google Sheets has become integral in the way that we do things these days. Excel's always going to hold a place in my heart, and I'll still always use Excel, but Google Sheets just offers some extra functionality from time to time that's really useful. So that's coming in the USA product. It's either live now or it's coming soon. And they've got a point of sale integration as well. So they've gone with Shopkeep, which I assume is a very USA based one, but obviously we've got iZettle, or Zettle as it's called now, for taking card payments, but they've gone for a full-blown point of sale integration, which is odd over in America because they've already got their own QuickBooks point of sale solution. So maybe it's a sign that they're kind of stepping away from that development and everything else, and they're just going to integrate going forward. So interesting.
Yes,
and that was all of them. Brilliant.
The QuickBooks point of sale, or the point of sale app going through. I don't know, is the point of sale app they've got already, was that through desktop, the point of sale?
It was, wasn't it? But there like they had like a workaround to get it on the online to some point, didn't they, for the US product? But it was only ever US only, there wasn't it at that point.
Yeah, so maybe it's just a little bit clunky, and sometimes you might find someone's developed an app that does a better job.
I wonder. That's it. So and the only other news I found is that they are now pushing for that Trade Gecko, and the QuickBooks Commerce is going to be something that we're going to hear a lot more of coming forward. So we'll keep you in the loop on that one. And with that then, Ash, I think that's it for the news. It was there was some bits of tidbits there, but not too much. But you've got some information about QuickBooks Advanced Payroll, haven't you?
Yeah, let me bring my screen in over.
While Ash is doing that, though, if you do have any questions, don't forget to use that question box. I notice we've got one question coming in, so we'll address that at the end. But yeah, if there's any more questions, then don't forget to use the question boxes on the right-hand side of all the different platforms, and they'll come over to us.
Right, share screen. Here we go. Okie dokie. Yeah, so I thought I'd just throw in a few tips around QuickBooks Online Advanced Payroll for anyone that might be thinking of taking a look at it. So I'm running a sort of a whole day of webinars on this with Intuit on Friday, but here are a few tips. Now I'm just going to go into payroll settings for this payroll, and there is absolutely masses of settings within advanced payroll. It's an extremely flexible product, and the amount of different settings can blow your mind literally. But I want to just go straight in first just to look at the chart of accounts. So with your chart of accounts, these are the categories when you're running a payroll. Where do you want your wages to appear, in your profit and loss? Where do you want your liabilities to appear on your balance sheet back in your accounting software? And it's here that you really make those decisions. And now you're going to have a default set of accounts. And these default accounts are the ones that you'll get without actually having to do any work within setting up QuickBooks. So your payroll clearing being the money that's going to be end up due to your employees, the actual cost of the payroll to wage expenses and so on. So you've got the different categories, national insurance, and down at the bottom I've got one here. So when employees create an expense, A default, for example, there is, you could put it to travel and accommodation. So part of that journal that's creating all of your costs, it could go there. Now that they are your general defaults. Now, to know what chart of accounts you have access to and which ones you're going to want to be able to link to, you have to click this import accounts at the top right. So I'm just going to open this up. And what this will do, it will display all the chart of accounts that you've got in QuickBooks, the different categories. So they list in alphabetical order. So I've got accountancy at the top, followed by all the different categories. So the ones that I've got blue ticks against, they're the ones that I'm choosing to use in payroll. So I've got entertaining, because if someone puts an expense claim through, they can put it to entertaining if they want. I've got director salary, because I can set up specific payroll codes for directors as well. So that leads me to just coming back to my chart of accounts, is that I've set up different categories for different pay categories, deductions and expense categories. So when I'm looking at things like director's remuneration, instead of it just being lumped in with wages, anyone that's on a director's salary has been set up with that particular pay category is going to go to the right place in my profit and loss, and so on. If I want my out of hours to be separate from anything else, that could go to staff bonus payments, like I've got on here as an example. And if I just come down a bit, I've got expense categories. So if people are claiming different expenses through payroll, so if someone claims an expense and they want to put it to entertainment, then I can make sure it goes to entertaining, and so on. Now I've got a few there, car parking, mileage and hotel, they're all going to go to travel. So if someone puts an expense claim in and it gets authorized, it will automatically go on the payroll. So before, when I used payroll, I can't remember if we spoke about this before, Aaron, I never used to put expenses on payroll because it always used to lump them within, gross wages. But at least with advanced payroll, you've got the ability of making sure they're all separate and appear in separate areas of your profit and loss. Now, if I just come out of this, so that was just a little bit on, your chart of accounts, how that links, how that affects the journal, your payroll journals when they get posted. Now, something else I want to sort of touch upon in payroll settings are sort of bank holidays. So if I'm looking at bank holidays, they don't automatically appear in your payroll. So I put a few in here earlier on while I was just doing some testing. So I can choose to put in a marker day as being a public holiday. And if I just click on this, just to open it up, I could see for this particular day, it could be for a specific location. So if I'm setting up my employees, I can have different locations. So I can have someone that works in the office, someone that works in the warehouse, someone that works in distribution. And it could be that the people that work in the office, they work Monday to Friday, they always have bank holidays off. So I could set up a location for office, and it would mean that if someone, selects holiday over that particular week, then it's not going to use up their allowance. It would use up however many days less the bank holidays. But it could be that my office worker is, someone in the warehouse, I'll set them up as a location warehouse. When they actually put their holiday in, it will just take the whole day because they don't fall under this sort of bank holiday setting that I've got here. So I could choose to put in other locations. So, it could be that everyone has the bank holidays off, but if these other ones don't, then I won't add them to that sort of bank holiday area. That's what makes sense on that, Aaron, on those.
Yeah, and I can see where that can be really beneficial, can't it? When you've got those two different two different types of staff, having different ones, it makes sense having it that option, doesn't it?
Yeah, because if you're in, what was I going to call it? Hotels. What do you call it? Hotels, restaurants, hospitality.
Hospitality. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're in that people are working all days, different shifts. So if people are, working within the hotel itself, we could set them their particular hours. So it doesn't matter what day they'll be working on. They could be working on a bank holiday. And that leads me to something else that we were asked recently, is that, well, if I have a worker that works on a bank holiday, then actually we need to add that day onto their accrued leave, because they're due a bank holiday, but they're working it. So this is one of these another little setting I just want to sort of call it out, really, is that within your sort of pay conditions, you have these rule sets, and you can create different rules. So if people work on a Saturday or a Sunday, you can say automatically, increase their hourly rate by double time, treble time. So you can create rules to do that. You could create a rule for bank holiday. So it could be if someone actually works on a bank holiday. I've probably not set this particular one up quite right. I'll look at another one. That when that working shift falls on a bank holiday, let me open up this other one. Edit rules. That's what I was looking at the wrong place. So the working bank holiday. So when a day is a public holiday, and if someone works on that day, then automatically add an extra day onto their leave. So you can really sort of be quite specific. And if someone works alternate shift patterns, so maybe they have 1 week on, 1 week off. So it could be there's that week off that they're not working the bank holiday. How do you go about doing that? What's something that maybe I was thinking about yesterday? Well, if I were to look at a employee, so let me look at my employees here. Who did I do this on yesterday? If I look at Chris, if I look at the standard hours, so we could set an employee up and say that their standard working hours in the pay run defaults are going to be 35 hours a week. But I could choose, if I went to the advanced settings and I wanted to edit that, let me just put it for only hours only, I could actually add a second week. So I could say that in week number 1 they work Monday to Friday, and in week number 2, so I could add a second week, perhaps I need to put some, there we go, I could say, well, they work week number 1 Monday to Friday, week number 2 they work Wednesday to Sunday. So when this sort of kicks in, it knows when is week 1 going to begin, sort of from this week, and then moving forward, QuickBooks Payroll will know automatically whether that person worked on a bank holiday or not. They don't have to enter timesheets if that's their standard working structure. It'll do it all for you in the background. So it's pretty clever, really. There's some pretty neat features there.
And it automatically alternates between the weeks then, does it?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Nice. Yeah, so it's a nice little feature there. I'll come sort that out a bit later. I'll just close that down. Another thing that I've been experimenting with, sort of to prepare, for our next little webinar, is, under manage employees, you've got this ability of, creating little rosters. And all of the employees will appear on this list. Anyway, I've got some, that's fine. I've got some shifts in here that I set up, but I could just choose to, click on a particular day. So let's go for Thursday, and I could choose, all right, well, how many, who do I need to go onto this particular shift? So I could just start adding people that I want on that shift. Now, what that will do, if I add those people, I could just add a few people on there. Let's add a couple in there. And I could put the times in at the top when I want the shift to start and finish on a particular day, or on an evening. you can set up a particular type of work and roles if you wish to as well, and you can choose to publish it. So what that will do, if I was to publish that, those employees should have access to the employee portal, and they'll get sent an email to say, you can now, there's some shifts available. If they actually have the employee portal on their phone, downloaded the Work Zone app, they'll have a little notification that will pop up and say there's a shift available. And they could click on the link to say, I'll accept that. So then that those, that work is, you're planning your work, the employees are going to do that work, and you're all good. Now, it could be that you've only got one job that needs doing. So there's this one job and I need that doing Saturday morning. I've got the choice of about 4 people. So that's when you could use this shift bidding option. So the shift bidding, not the best terminology really, but what that means is that there's one shift and there's 3 people that could do it, and whoever actually accepts it first, they're the ones that are going to grab that shift and have it. So I could choose to, save that, publish it. And that'll get sent out. So it's been sent out to 3 people. And then once one person accepts it, it'll change like this Chris White one has done over there.
So it's fastest thing first at that point, then, is it?
That one is, yeah. Now there's some other things which I need to have a little look at. So you can sort of set up templates and you can create some budgets against your rosters. Now I just want to close this down. Open this up. I've got a cost breakdown. So I can see for this particular one where I've just got a cost. I've got 3 hours, and that's actually telling me how much that shift is going to cost, because I've got 3 hours in there. That person's hourly rate who's accepted it is going to cost me £66. And you can also create, and I've lost it at the moment. There we go, budgets. So against, you could you could create a budget against a particular shift. So you could say, I've got these particular days. That's the budget that I'm going to put in for those days. And then when you start rostering and people start accepting, you'll get warnings. So if it goes, within that other setting, you've got 85% of your budget, you're going to have something come back to, you're getting close to what you're expecting to spend on that particular day. So loads of great sort of tools there that are available for people that employ, could be people on different flexible 0-hour contracts and all sorts. So we just close that down.
I love it. And
so
I've got some real life scenarios of where this advanced payroll can be really useful. So from our point of view, the game changer by far, which you've already mentioned, it was that employee portal. We use that to set it up so that if a client or if one of our staff members wants to claim expenses, they just do it through that portal. And that's an absolute game changer in terms of saving time and everything else that goes through it. They just log in, they put what their expenses are, and they're absolutely done. It's brilliant for them. And then the other one we found lately was that new starter idea. So the idea, you just send them a link, don't you? Now you put their email address in and they fill it all out for you.
Yeah, that's right. So you can, from your manage employee, from your add employee, you've got this employee self setup. So just from there, you can literally put the employee's name and email address in there, send it across to them, and they'll do the rest. Or they'll do as much of what they can do.
Yeah.
And then it'll come back, it will appear on the screen to say it's been partly set up, and then you as the payroll manager will be able to put in what their salary is and some other bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a nice feature. One other thing I'll pop into while we're here. So in the payroll settings, you've got this So you've got your portal settings, and that's where you can choose what we just mentioned about. Well, as soon as you set up a new employee, you'll have the ability of basically ask or selecting that they've got access to the portal, and they'll automatically receive an invitation through email, and that's when you can just check, who has got access at the moment, and you can grant them access, and if they leave, you can remove it very easily. Something else which is within here, which I just sort of started dabbling with yesterday, actually no, just Sunday evening this was, is in the time and attendance, is the ability of using a little kiosk. So if you are, you've got people that should clock in and clock out, then it's a kiosk. You have to have an iPad for this, and I had to go out and buy one to test it. So my first Apple purchase, and I've downloaded the app on my iPad, and I'll show you how it works very quickly. But I mean, you can add a new kiosk. I created one here called Warehouse A, but you can add a new kiosk, give it your own name, and you can set it for a particular location if you want it to. And it could be set specifically for one location, or you can choose, everyone pretty much to access it, and whether they need to even have their photo ID, checked while they're logging in, so they can put in their start and their end times. And then once that's set up, you've got the employee access. So again, you've got your employees there. They'll all be listed, and some of those that need to clock in, you send them a little pin, and then they'll be able to log in and pop in their pin. And I'm going to see if I can demonstrate this. I'll just need to turn on the screen share. Bear with me a second. Here we go. It's finding the link. Perhaps I won't. Perhaps it's playing up. So I'm just checking the address I've got in there, which is the right one. I'll give it one more go.
I suppose it's not, you're not used to having to share an Apple product, is it? It's totally your Android product.
I've got the right address up there, so I'm not quite sure why that's decided not to. What to bring in? I'll just give it one more try, but if not, I'll just I won't bother. It says it can't be shared, but according to my iPad, it's sharing. Anyway, just take my word for it on that one. Then it's extremely simple. So basically, what happens is they just see the iPad, they see their names down the left hand side. Then there's some numbers on the front. 1 to 9, they put in a 4-digit code, and then they can just choose then to start their shift from that point. And then if they need to come back and take a break, they select their name, tap in their code, start break, stop work. It's dead easy. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gutted I couldn't display it, because literally as we started, I had it all up on the screen, and I just decided to not play ball with me. So that's live television for you. Anyway, I think that's enough of my sort of extra little advanced payroll tips for today. But if anyone's got any other questions on that, I'll be more than willing to try and answer them.
I mean, I know some other kind of tips of where those departments can come in, because that again was a game changer we used for our client. Those departments, when you've got that opportunity, if they're in R&D, so research and development, that can be huge for them, because there's ability there where you can kind of set the departments properly up so that then you can get it so that they're all posted into the right areas on the P&L, and it means that they can have kind of confidence in their calculations and stuff like that. So it is, when you really do get into the depths of what can be done on advanced payroll, it's so like it's endless, isn't it, in terms of your options and everything else to do it what you need it to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a few up on here. So locations are your sort of departments really. And so one example I had on here is that you could have a location for furlough. So it means that when you run a report, you could literally filter it by that location, and anyone that's on it will appear on there, and I have all of the national insurance and whatever you're trying to sort of work out what to claim in the one place. Yes, there's lots of tools available, definitely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. But have you seen any of the integration from QuickBooks Time yet? That's not available yet, is it? It's still coming soon, isn't it?
No, I've not seen any of the integration, not on the advanced payroll yet. It should be on its way, but it's not in product yet quite yet.
I suppose thinking about it, although we're saying it's on its way, they've never clarified if that's QuickBooks Advanced or QuickBooks Basic, have they? So
that is true. That is very, very true. And what's the biggest thing I get asked is about, so you've got your projects in QuickBooks.
Yeah. And
so as at the moment, we can't link payroll to project. There are some workarounds, but but those to one side, you can't. There's not a direct link, which is what's really needed, which I think a few people are sort of shouting for.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes sense. No, brilliant though. Some really good bits of advice. And again, like we said at the beginning, if you are thinking about moving payroll provider, then this is that month to make that decision, really, isn't it? If you want it to be simple and straightforward and without headaches.
Yeah, and one of the little useful thing in there is that if you do have people on different pay schedules, you might have weekly or monthly. It's very easy to swap them between the two as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So if someone is on weekly pay, and then you say, actually, no, I'm going to move them to monthly pay. You literally just edit their record and say they're now on the monthly pay schedule, and it just does it.
That's good. That's good. I've had software providers before where I've had to P45 them, and then
yeah, so you don't need to do that. You literally just change what schedule they're on.
Oh, that makes them feel better. Yeah, there's nothing worse than them having to be told they've been P45 when they haven't, is it?
Yeah. Well, I'll stop sharing that then. So I think we're sort of
that's really useful. And for us, the reason we moved over was also that HR functionality of having the ability to book your own holidays and stuff. I'll be honest, we haven't quite got our head around it properly yet. There's still some teething problems with it, but the functionality of that is just it's really good. So brilliant. All right, so over to you guys now then for our final bit of the day. We've just got 5 more minutes left of the show itself, and it's the whole Ask Us Anything. And the idea then, you get to ask any questions that you've got. So question that we've had come through during the section was all around bank accounts, and is it possible to count the processed eBay payments that show in my bank as total income instead of messing around with eBay deductions? Now, unfortunately, this is a problem that comes up quite regular, isn't it, Ash? It's not necessarily just eBay, it's PayPal, Stripe, any really payment provider or way of taking payments and depositing it in. If they ever take fees at source, we get this question quite a lot, don't we, in terms of, what to do and everything else. Now, just to answer that question really there, honestly, you do have to gross up the payment or the income if you to account for it properly, and unfortunately there's no way around that. The reason it's so important, or the reason it can be important to you, is if you're really close to that VAT threshold. So, HMRC want to see your gross income less any costs and any fees and everything has to be accounted for separately. So the money that comes into your bank account will only ever be coming in net and you've just got to find a simple solution for yourself, or a more convenient solution, should I say, of being able to gross it up. We, me and Ash, we tend to go down the route of having a control account, don't we, and using control accounts to do it. But there's various methods to gross up in QuickBooks.
Yeah, I mean, let me just share my screen, because just thinking while that question came in. So one very, very basic thing that you could do is, let me just come back into there. So if all of those sales have come through net of your charges, so let's say you're getting 100, £90 a time, but you should be getting 100 is the sale, and you've got a long list of stuff that's come through. So you've got literally 50 transactions, £10 a time has been deducted. So at the moment, what you could do is that every single one of those things, you could just say, well, I'll code them all in a batch, every single entry, every single one I'm going to put, to sales. So the entry is going to be money in the bank, money's gone into sales. But you've not accounted for your charges. So your turnover, quite rightly, like Aaron said, is not quite high enough. But what you could do is that if you looked at your eBay account and you said, okay, well, summary of charges last month, I had 50 sales and I had £10 a time go through. That's 500 quid. So you could, just very, very simply, you could say, okay, well, I'll pop on a little journal, and it only needs to be 2 lines. So you could do it once a month. So you could say, okay, well, let's say to the 28th of February. And I don't have an account in here. I'm going to create one very quickly. eBay charges. So you could have one little account there for your expenses. Let's say that's a bank charge. So your total cost for the month, £500. And you want to credit your sales by 500 quid. So that way you can say total eBay fees for the month, £500, adjust your sales by the same. And if you had a report or something from eBay, you could attach it down the bottom. So that could help you out. So you don't have to go through all the one by one faffing about with it, adjusting. As long as you've got that something to back it up with, that will be a very sort of quick way of doing it, sorting it.
Yeah, definitely. And that way, especially putting your attachment there, you've got that backup as well. So it's a quick and easy way of doing it, isn't it? So yeah.
So, yeah.
There is a whole video on my channel on eBay managed payments and how to deal with it. But I agree with Ash. I think the easiest way is, if you're disciplined to just remember to do it on a month-by-month basis, then yeah, let's just throw in that monthly one. You'll be absolutely fine.
And you could create yourself a little template as well if you wanted to, and save it and then go back in and use it.
Yeah, definitely set it recurring, and you're off to a good one, aren't you, on that one?
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. Well, yeah, I think that's the questions. It's a couple more that's come through, but we'll save them for another week. I think we've just come to that hour mark now, so it's time for us to move on. Ash, I'm going to put you on the spot here because we didn't discuss this pre-show. When's our next show? What time?
It's going to be the 30th of March, and I don't have my phone with me, and I want to make sure. Let me just do a double check here that we're not booked to do any sort of training courses, and it's good for me, the 30th of March.
Yeah, works for me as well.
Okay, so it'll be the 30th of March. How very organised we are.
So it's all worked out in the end. So 30th of March is our next QuickBooks Labs. Hopefully, we'll definitely have some news for you, but we're also going to try and get you a guest as well. And we always like to throw in a guest every now and again, just to bring you some exciting time. So, Ash, I think that's pretty much the end of it, isn't it?
It is, Aaron. Yeah, it just goes to say, yeah, thanks for joining us, everybody. That's a goodbye from me.
And that's a goodbye from me. And we will see you on the next. I almost said Ask the Expert. Now I'm on the wrong show. On QuickBooks Labs. See you next time, everyone.
Take care. Bye.